This is like take number 45 at how to find a cashier and not do your balls. Number one, find the cashier. Facebook Marketplace is a good one. Family and friends are even better. I first started doing like little decks and shit like that for family and friends, hang some doors. You'll find out that you're not as good as you think you are. So, focus. Doing some work or a job where there's not much pressure is really fucking useful. It might take some time to get that like worked out of like how to find a job, but realistically you're only looking for a day and a half a week. So if you put the feelers out there, shouldn't be too hard. That's how to find the job. Second part, how to do the job and not do your balls. Two ways to go about it. If you're working on hourly rate, you want to bump it a little bit from what you're earning like with your boss or something like that. If it's a family and friends job, you're obviously not going to charge them the same whack that you are a builder. In our hypothetical situation, say it's renovation works under 10 grand, so you don't need a builder's license or insurance or anything like that for it, or a contract. So in that situation, I would itemize each like part of your scope of work. So if you're doing a bathroom renovation, how many hours is in demo, how many hours is in framing it back out, doing your shower bases, plaster noggins, change of direction noggins if there's any, if you're going to hang the plaster, how long is it going to take you to hang the plaster, refit any doors, architrave, skirting, that kind of thing. And then I'd allocate a certain number of hours to each of those things. And then you work your way down from that into your price. So if you've got, I generally reckon double it. So if you're working for 35 an hour on wages and you go out on your own, I'd probably look to charge 60 to 70 bucks an hour. Thinking that you're actually earning 60 to 70 bucks an hour when you're on your own is a bit of a myth. You'll find out very quickly that you've got a lot more bills to pay than you usually would. Work cover, income, insurance, tools, tool maintenance, are all the main ones. Like obviously you've got your car and shit like that, but then you also find yourself needing to allow to go back there. So if you don't get it done in the time you thought and you've got to go back another day, then you obviously don't want to lose money just because you've got to go back there. There's probably the worst thing you can do is not work out your hourly rate correctly, or work out your employee's hourly rate correctly. If you get midway through a job and realise that the more you work, the more money you lose. I haven't had it happen, thank fuck. I've lost money in other ways, but I haven't done it that way. But I'm sure it's a fucking horrendous feeling, so you really want to avoid that. So making sure your costs are right when you put it to your client is really fucking important. As far as scheduling, my general rule is I'll allow 1/3 more time than I think. So if I think something's going to take me 3 hours, I'll allow 4. If I think it's going to take me 3 days, I'll allow 4. If I think it's going to take me 6 days, I'll allow an extra 2. I have a habit of being really optimistic with what I think I can get done in a day, and I don't think I'm alone with that. It's kind of when you see, and it's not because you just do it for the money, but you can see that there's a chance if you skip smoko and push really hard, you might get it done that day. So you kind of, fool yourself a little bit into thinking that you will. And then you don't, and if you've got jobs booked in the next day, then it can really start to fuck up your schedule. So make sure you've still got time to go back there, and obviously allowing your hourly rate a little bit of travel to go back there and do anything like that. The other reason you charge more in your hourly rate or your allowance for your time is when you work on wages. and you ball something up, you're probably still going to get paid to fix it. Whereas obviously if you end up doing something twice because you messed it up the first time when you're on like a quoted job, that's just money straight out of your pocket. So you do need to allow a little bit of fudge factor. And then, while you're doing the job, you want to make sure that you keep a detailed record of how long things are taking you. It's important when you're actually giving your hours to someone and getting paid by the hour. You'll find it's even more important when it's your own job, because that's going to tell you where you've underquoted and where you're losing money. So you might find that you were a lot faster on something that you thought, so you made a heap of money on demo, but you lost a shitload in straightening walls, and unless you keep track of your hours, you're never going to know. So next time you try and quote a job, you might just quote the shit out of it and lose it because you messed up on the other one and underquoted it, and now you've gone to the other end of the scale. Whereas if you just keep track of your hours and how long things take you, then you can actually start to dial in your price pretty well. And then on top of that, that also helps speed up your quoting in the future. Obviously once you've got a bit of a database of how long shit takes, then you're not guessing anymore. But like I said, this video is more just making sure you don't completely do your nuts on your first job or two, and then you learn pretty quick. So once you've got your first job or two under your belt, you'll start to go pretty well at it, I hope, for your sake. And then the world's kind of your oyster. A lot of guys will start off, a lot of guys I know started off just doing like cashies for friends and family and that, on weekends, and then they started to find that their weekends were filling up quite quickly, and you'll be surprised it doesn't take a massive amount of work to go out on your own, and this comes to keeping your costs low. It gives you a little bit more confidence that you can go out on your own, and if you've got to make a job last a day or two longer to get to your next job, then that's okay, because you don't have to hit some out of this world figure each day of profit to keep your head above water. Other than that, that's kind of about it. If you do mess something up with your clients, be honest about it, tell them you're going to fix it. The worst thing you can do is let your client pick your defects. Ideally you wouldn't have any, but it does happen. If you think it's bad enough to actually mention it to the client that you can't just cover it up, I'd mention it straight away or at the end of that day, and then tell them that you are going to fix it, just to give them a bit of confidence in you. If you're starting out, they probably feel like they're taking a risk on you as much as you're taking a risk. So you need to really respect that confidence in you, and don't try and bullshit them or cover it up. If you fucked up, just say you fucked up. It is what it is. It does happen. The only other thing is materials. If you're doing everything for a set price, I would suggest adding a little bit on for materials. If all you're doing is passing the receipt onto the client and they're just going to pay you whatever it costs, that's different. But if you're doing that, then I'd make sure you get some form of deposit up front, because obviously you're putting up the money, you're buying the materials to actually do the job. So if hypothetically, if your client went broke, then you lose your materials money, which if you're starting out shouldn't really be your position. Leave that to the builders. So just make sure your ass is covered with materials as well. It's just something else to think about. That's probably about it for this video. I was really fucking struggling today. Hopefully tomorrow I've got something a little bit better for you, but it's just gone 10 o'clock at night. I've still got to edit and upload this, so it was kind of the best I could come up with on short notice. So I'm hoping it was still worth your while and that we fixed some of the audio issues we were having. I've chucked a different mic on it this time, so fingers crossed. Anyway, have a good night.